Hello, everyone. We are live. I am joined by both of the wonderful Kens in the fandom. We've got Praxium Ken
Hi.
and the Cooler Ken as well.
Hey,
And I had the absolute pleasure of meeting both of these gentlemen at the first Legends Con. And we have this iconic point photo recreating the Spider Man point meme. And it is glorious to say the least. Whichever one of you wants to go first, how did this photo come to be?
well, think first we should give you credits, Brennan, because I think you took this picture.
I think I
I
did.
think it was you.
Yeah.
I think so.
Mm,
But there were a lot of photos being taken at that con, so sometimes it's hard to remember who took what.
yeah, I believe it was definitely before the convention that we made some joke about this, or at least in my head, I was like, we need to take this picture. I'm not sure if I knew Ken was coming to the convention. And it was funny because I had no idea what he looked like. So this guy is standing next to me. I was like, who are you? He's like, I'm the other Ken Palpatine. It's like,
That's right. I just walked up to you. That's like half of my meeting. Everybody at Legends Con was just like, "Hi."
Mhm.
Walked up to you. Hi, how are you?
that's why I painted myself blue, because I wasn't going to be able to just come up to a person. I had to make them do it.
Had you have your Ken Thrawn disguise? It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very smart. I'm sure that Ken Palpatine in the EU must have cosplayed as Mithra Naruto at some point.
Oh, he absolutely had a Jaina Solo hoodie stashed somewhere down in the Lost City of the Jedi.
He was a big fanboy of like other people that
Yep.
existed in universe.
For sure.
Truly.
Truly,
Yeah.
biggest fanboy of all time.
So basically, Praxium Ken just wandered up to the Cooler Ken and was just like, "Hey, I'm Ken."
Hey, what's up? I'm Ken.
Yeah. And we
That's
just
awesome.
felt it. I think we might have mentioned doing this beforehand
Did mention it.
because we were both on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's glorious. So there was an instant connection of like, I'm with my people. I'm with
Yeah.
Ken.
The Ken Force bond, if you will.
Yeah.
So you felt his presence.
I did feel
near.
his presence.
Yeah, there was a
Thankfully, he
third
didn't
Ken
have
in
his,
that room.
His anti-force lizards.
Yeah. The picture is glorious, and it was a really fun convention. I think we would all agree that it was quite a success. Praxium Ken, you were only there on the Saturday, is that correct?
I was, yeah.
Yeah, but it was a great day, and I think we all had a blast. What was you guys' favorite part of the convention?
Probably going to the different booths and looking at all the stuff there.
Yeah, it was just kind of fun to walk around the convention floor with like friends that we knew,
Yeah.
people we talked to.
Getting pictures with people and cosplayers was a highlight of my day. I have
there
so
were
many
some
photos.
cool ones out there. There was Cade, there was Ken Thrawn,
Mara,
Revan, Mara, Nomi.
some random stormtroopers.
Yeah, there's some good stuff out there.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
What about you,
excellent.
Cooler Ken? What was your favorite part of the convention?
It's definitely somewhere between meeting those authors and being able to play D6 Star Wars again in person, which I haven't been able to do in probably 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long was that? Because I saw that on the schedule. Wasn't that like 2 or 3
Yeah.
hours? Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2 hours long. Some of the guys came in and they sort of wanted to just watch, and the GM was very inviting, and then they realized we got to play, and we just had this great synchronicity with each other.
Oh, that's awesome.
And there was this 8-year-old kid. He did pretty well for like the first hour and a half, and then it was very clear that he was getting like tired and ready to go. So he started doing things, and I was like, But other than that, it was funny because I'd run that adventure before. So I was doing my best to not interfere with what was going on. It was great because I was playing like a protocol droid.
Nice.
Yeah. So largely I didn't have to involve myself in the decision making.
Right. So overall, would you say it went well?
Yeah, I had a great time.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. I love that.
When looking at the schedule, I'm sure you guys both felt like this as well. I was like, oh man, I want to kind of do, everything, but all the time like overlap. So if I do this, I'll be missing out on panels. If I get this signed up, or if I go to this panel, I'll miss out on this signing. And it's like, it was very hard to juggle because the schedule was very exciting, but at the same time it overlapped, which is all conventions, to be fair. You have to pick and choose what you want to do. But there was a lot of good stuff on that schedule.
For sure.
Absolutely.
You guys both have the name Ken Palpatine, and that is for, of course, the grandson of Palpatine in universe, Ken from Jedi Prince. Right here, I have it on the shelf. Don't know if you can make that out, but Jedi Prince is kind of a wacky young readers novel series. There's the hardcovers, beautiful. Tell me, what was you guys' first experience with Jedi Prince, and how did that influence both of you to pick the name Ken?
I'll go first. I think it was around 2011 where I'd read Jedi Search, I'd read Heir to the Empire, and then I decided I wanted to read everything from post Return of the Jedi. So I got onto Bakura, and then I read, everything in that sequence, except the next thing in that line was Jedi Prince. So it was kind of funny at the time. I had to go through these like children's books, which largely didn't play into the rest of the universe. Although we've come to change that a little bit so that it makes more sense.
Yeah.
But I remember joking with my friend. I tried to make him read it too, and it was too weird for him. But the Sky House, I used to talk about the Sky House all the time. I remember seeing a web article about dumbest things in the EU, where they're scheduling the wedding, and they're like, I don't know if we should put Chewbacca next to Admiral Akbar, and some things like that. But I don't know, it just stuck with me. But I think that over time, it really tied into the Rise of Skywalker when it came out, how there's this maybe unintentional mirroring of things. So you look at that and you're like, wow, Ken should probably be more important than he was made out to be originally.
Yep.
So yeah, I joined a Discord server, and I was probably, I think I just used my actual name for a long time because I didn't know how Discord worked. Finally, I changed my name to Ken Palpatine, and largely I've been Ken Palpatine since.
Nice. Awesome. Now, Praxium Ken, what was your discovery of Jedi Prince and then subsequent naming?
So ages ago, like 2014-ish, I was just on the internet, surfing the web, looking at the Wook occasionally, and I remember in some EU forum, people were talking about like, Palpatine's son, and I was like, who he had a son? What? And I searched for the books or the media he was from, and I found the Jedi Prince books, and I read them. They are certainly outliers in the EU as a whole, very much so. They had a lot of wacky stuff, but I resonated with Ken as like a person. I thought he was a really interesting character, and at that time on Discord, I'd had various profile pictures, and Ken's character, he stuck with me, and so I decided to make him like the face of my internet persona.
That's awesome. Absolutely wonderful stories for discovering those books. I discovered both of those books. I read them for the first time in like 2019, and I read all of them in like one weekend, because even though they were wacky, I was kind of hooked in a way. Like I was like, what's gonna happen next? This is really weird, but like this is very interesting. Like I didn't know the story was gonna be like this. And what Praxium Ken said kind of struck me, because Ken is actually a pretty well-written, likable protagonist. I mean, he thinks like maybe I'm the descendant of Obi-Wan, and he's like, maybe I'm the descendant of a hero, but then it's like, it's quite a twist. No, he's not. He's descendant of the biggest bad guy in Star Wars, and he just means so well. He's just trying so hard, and that's a really big roadblock, a really big setback in his hopes to be a Jedi. I feel like, and it's unfortunate we never saw him again. Like in the EU, we got Jedi Prince references elsewhere in the EU, but I'd have liked to know what happened to Ken. What have you guys heard? The Kenneth Hamner is Ken theory, and what do you guys think of it?
I have heard of that theory, and I'm not a fan.
No.
Not a fan.
Ken would not go out like that. I'm sorry, he's better than that. He ain't no Kenneth Hamner. Sorry
True.
to say. Ken would probably fight Kenneth Hamner himself. So
I think he'd become more of a wayward kind of Jedi. Or maybe that's just the explanation that comes to mind when you take the whole EU and see he's not there.
yeah,
Yeah. True.
Drifter Jedi out in the galaxy somewhere.
Like
Seen
like
some-
out like Yoda on Dagobah or something like that. Just out living like a hermit.
Maybe.
Something like that.
Do you guys have fanfic or headcanon ideas for what happened to Ken, if not to become the inferior Kenneth Hamner?
Ken
Yeah.
definitely went out into the unknown regions and found all the architects and
Ah,
all like Talatni,
yeah.
Cold Anderson. He was chilling with them.
I like it.
At the moment, we've got, it's in my re-expanded universe project. One of the authors had actually kind of tied Ken in with something. And I really appreciate the work. I haven't read this story yet. I know kind of the bullet points of it. And while it's not what I would have done, who am I to, judge someone because they actually wrote something?
Of course.
So I do appreciate.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I wrote a New Jedi Order fanfic where I
Last
killed
breath.
Ken off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
a sad moment. I remember.
Wow.
that.
Yeah, it was rough. And I had Ken record the lines, the audio files. I really hope to put that together someday.
I hope
But
so.
I have like
It's a
an audio
fantastic,
drama. Yeah, and
short story.
he did the voice, and he did
Mhm.
Ken's dying.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it was very moving. We should have sent that to the Davids. They would have loved that.
Oscar-worthy performance right here.
Yeah, yes, indeed. I mean, do you guys think that Jedi Prince deserves some of the hate it gets, or do you think it's really not as outlandish and deserving of ridicule as it perhaps gets?
I don't think it deserves a lot of the hate because, like, at the end of the day, like, I know it sounds weird, but it's a children's book, so all the weird stuff
That's exactly
is
what I
kind
was
of
gonna
like it's kind of valid because it's intended for a target audience that are gonna think that stuff is cool and funny.
Yeah.
So
Yep, exactly what I was going to say. I mean, it's funny world building. It definitely gave us some things within the EU. I mean, I'd say Trioculus.
Hologram Fun World. Did I say more?
Yeah, all those guys. I don't know. It's fun.
Very fun series.
Yeah. It really is, and it's somewhat inoffensive to me, given you guys' point of it's like children's books. But at the same time, I really kind of oddly really appreciate and like the story that it told for some reason. Like the idea of these moths on the Dark Council, the idea of multiple three-eyed sons of Palpatine are on the loose, one masquerading as the other. That's hilarious. Waylodons, who's not going to like Waylodons? They're great. The environmentalist message to every single book. It's really fascinating. And Zorba. You got to love Zorba. Hut with dreadlocks,
Zorba's
right?
a hut.
Yeah, it's
Iconic.
exactly.
Leads you to wonder what's Rhoda doing.
Honestly,
Well, so that means Rhoda would be Zorba's grandchild, right? Grandson?
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
who would probably be more likely to be the heir to the Hut franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to wonder,
Did Zorba
what's happened.
Did Zorba like suffocate Rhoda with a pillow or something?
I wouldn't put it past him.
Who knows?
Can you guys picture the scene where Zorba's like thrown up out of the Sarlacc and he's like laughing? He's like, a Sarlacc can't hold a hut. It can't digest us. And he's like bragging about it.
He's just like Superman posing while he's coming out of the Sarlacc. You can't stop me.
Yeah. Aside from Jedi Prince, what have you guys been reading within the expanded universe as of late?
Supernatural Encounters, to name one book. Go check out my friend Marcel. He has a stream called Super Literary Encounters. Go check that out
Great
if you
stuff.
haven't already. It is great stuff. We talk about the whole book from beginning to end, and it is absolutely fantastic. That book is wild.
Talk about it for 80 hours, I think is what he told us, which might be, I think he said, other than maybe the Bible, it could be the longest dissection of a book via podcast like ever.
Wow. That's
Which
insane.
is
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's very cool. The cooler Ken, have you read Supernatural Encounters or dipped your toes into that yet?
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that actually. I saw the excerpt from Mammon Hool. That is the extent. So it's sitting on my shelf, and I'm at 0 ABY right now. I've largely read the Bantam era, so I've got like some short story catch-all. This is like I've got to pick up all the stragglers before finally reading the Legacy comics, which I've never done. So I'll stop and read 1,000 pages of Supernatural Encounters before finally getting to that.
Oh man,
That's good. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it.
So you're basically doing a complete chronological read through?
Yeah, pretty much. It was largely out of order, but it was sectioned off in weird ways that, around this time I was a kid, so I really didn't have the access I do now to these short stories and comics.
Yeah.
So it was much easier to just get the books.
Of course. It's
Mhm.
As an expanding universe fan, the beauty of it is it's in so many places, but at the same time, that's the frustration. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's weird to have to like type in, and it's right around the 0. You have to read like adventure journals, you read comics, you read those mission books, which are very strange.
They're weird.
I'm wondering, like, what's the deal with this character that you play as? They're not named. They don't have like a Wook article.
Yeah.
Is it like it's not Luke?
No, it's like
Because there's
it's like random rebellion hero number 1 or something like that.
Yeah. They all happen to be friends with the same droid. So you kind of feel like it's the same guy, although maybe it's sectioned off into these 4-book parts.
Yeah.
Because the 4 that I read really felt like they were about the same guy.
Yeah, those books are weird. I've not read all of them, but so I don't know about the consistency of that character. But they are strange, and there's like the gap for when you're supposed to play the game and stuff too, which makes reading it like in one sit through kind of difficult because you have to like jump around and stuff.
I skip that stuff.
Yeah. It's they're cool, but I think the episode 1 and episode 2 adventures like did a better job overall than the missions books of being like cohesive narratives, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't read those actually. I really wanted to get through some other things, so I skipped that. I'll probably come back to it, but yeah.
So you've never read the Legacy comics before?
No.
And you're gonna have to wait 1,000 pages of Supernatural Encounters to read them?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's dedication.
Crazy.
I'm throwing some fan fiction in there too, so it's gonna take a little bit. Yeah.
Ron. Gotta read that. It's great stuff. I was reading it
Yeah,
a while
well-
back, but I stopped. But it's
What
it's
Hand
really
of
Twi-
Thrawn were you reading?
It's Legacy's Edge.
Gotcha. Is
Mhm.
that the one before Legacy then?
Yes, that is the prequel series.
And then the one after is Legacy's End. Is that correct? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Twilight of the Jedi is the one I've read so far. It's a duology,
Is that
kind of.
Is that the Republic Commando series?
is
Yeah,
that the
wraps up
Coruscant Knights?
Republic- Yeah, both of those. It's really interesting because it kind of expects you to have read 9 books before jumping into it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Mhm.
That's the EU for you, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Then there isn't there one where like Luke and
Sword of the
Mara
Jedi.
discover Kakruk?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
What's that
that
one
I've
called?
not read that one, but
Survival.
That was fantastic.
Okay.
Mhm.
And there's one about Baron Fell as well, I think, right? It's
Yeah, I
Hand of
think
Jud-
that's
something of judgment.
There's one about Zek.
Hour of Judgment.
Or judgment.
Mhm. Yeah, based
there's
on
Zek
the
one.
Promise
notes.
Promises.
That's the thing I really appreciate about some of those books is Hand of Thrawn is really working off of some author notes
Mm-hmm.
and just implications throughout the universe, tying things together.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like praise the wrapping up and concluding storylines, but I don't know. You can never finish Star Wars.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
big universe, but I think his dedication is really admirable. He does a good job of writing the characters.
It is very admirable. It's an extremely cool effort, and I'm really glad for the. I guess it's kind of sparked fire in people again to like care about these stories.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of the people who were kind of disheartened, it's given them something to be excited about, and I just think that's really really cool.
Mhm.
But we have a bunch of comments here to catch up on. Bean says he wishes Stover had wrote Padme surviving Revenge of the Sith and taking baby Leia to Alderaan, but George probably wouldn't allow it since it wouldn't be part of his vision. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, that would be a continuity error.
Mhm.
If you're still watching, because I see this comment was a while ago, what would that have changed about the story that you would have enjoyed it more about Padme surviving Revenge of the Sith? I don't know what that adds, but maybe there's something that I hadn't considered.
Yeah, shout out to you too, because I love. Sorry to interrupt you. Love Muppets 4D. Great ride.
Is this Bean here on the profile
Yeah.
picture?
Bean.
Nice.
Speaking
This
of
is
that-
getting out of hand.
Oh, there are 2 of them.
That was great. That was great. Your Ken's impressions and voices
Oh, they're
very
amazing.
impressive throughout all of Supernatural Encounters. And here is someone who is also on Super Lit. It's Al.
Yep.
The one and
I think
only.
the one and only. I think he agreed with something Ken said a little while ago. He said, "Getting friends to read Star Wars books is the most relatable thing to me."
Absolutely is.
It's the only time it worked.
Just like nudge a coworker or a colleague and be like, "Hey," and hold up Crystal Star.
Hey, buddy. Space whales? You want to see space whales in a Star Wars book?
Do you want to see a clone of or a droid version of Leia shoot lasers out of her eyes? Jedi Prince.
Do you want to see a dude with 3 eyes?
Yeah.
2 of them.
And one in the back of his head.
Now there are 2 of them again.
Corey says he's impressed by the level of restraint and took not to call myself Kenan for this stream.
It's not canon.
Yeah,
Not canon.
I'm not as cool as these other Kens here. Love the series, and Ken Palpatine was an interesting character. Ken Palpatine theory is interesting still, though. Even if not true, still funny to think, what if? Yeah, when I first heard that theory, I kind of almost accepted it a little bit for a couple of reasons. So I had not read all of Fate of the Jedi yet, so I didn't know that Kent ends up being a horrible person and ruining things in Fate of the Jedi. But so when he's introduced as an old friend of like Han, Luke, and Leia's, who's experienced a lot of like battles with them. That applies to Ken. It also makes sense that Ken wouldn't want to be like out there walking around like, "Hey, I'm Ken Palpatine," because Palpatine wronged so many people. How many people do you think would want to get revenge on like someone who has the name Palpatine? So it would make sense that maybe he would switch his name, and he's also an old Jedi who's maybe around the right age. Jax Voss did a video where he kind of disputed that, where he said the ages don't line up very much. But at the same time, it was very weird that they just introduced this guy Kenth out of nowhere. So I have to wonder, do you think there was any authorial intent that maybe some of the authors were considering that a thing when they like put in this old friend of Han and Leia's? Do you think that was a wink in any ways, or do you think they were completely oblivious?
Completely off, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Characters.
I personally, I looked at those two guys. I read the Who's Who in the New Jedi Order, and they're very clear about these two guys who we've never seen before. And I really thought it was kind of a missed opportunity. Not to say, Kent isn't all right in like the New Jedi Order at least, but there was two characters that could have probably been substituted from more the West End Games side of things. I forget what his name was, but someone that actually was created by Troy Denning in his Jedi's Honor book.
Have it
Egwin? No, not him.
Okay.
Yeah. I think his name Egway.
Egway, okay.
Yeah.
He was in those like books he wrote for the UK.
Yeah.
Oh no! Sorry. Yes, I know what you're talking about now. The
they were from West End Games. That's the one. Mm-hmm. And then Fable Aston would basically be the same kind of character outline for Tresina Lobi.
Right. Yeah.
Because we really don't see the two of them do much. It's sort of just some random names. But I don't know. They didn't have Lucino yet working on all of his references, so
yeah,
I think it fell between the cracks.
Ken, here's another voice for you to attempt.
That's why I'm here.
Hey, that was pretty good. Yes, I killed Ken in Last Breath. I am a menace for that. Oh, I love this next one. Ken is a professor at Dagobah Tech now.
That's perfect. He's teaching kids the history of his bloodline.
It's canon. It's canon.
It's canon.
Here, I'm Ken here at Dagobah Tech, and I'm going to teach you about how a hydro spanner works. You take this like little thing here, and you just press a button and then turn it on. Like, wow. I kind of sound like George Lucas, but like Ken Palpatine.
We have some Jedi Prince love though in these books. Jedi Prince is peak fiction for real. That's wonderful. We also have this is called a super chat. This is the first one of these I've gotten. Ken Palpatine is a character with great potential. Indeed. I would agree.
Did you pay money to say that? Is that what that means?
That's what that means. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Who hates Jedi Prince? Never heard that one. Yeah. I wish there were no Jedi Prince haters, but a lot of those post 2014 Screen Rant writers really didn't like Jedi Prince.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
Now Jedi Prince does end in what could be considered a contradiction with the marriage of Han and Leia, when we know that's not supposed to happen yet. The authors said that it wasn't going to happen that way and it was going to be split up. How do you see that going for those books that we hadn't seen yet? Is there anything you think would have happened in those books?
Well, first of all, I want to say there is a fan fiction trilogy out there written by a certain person who shall remain nameless. But if you all want to know like what could have happened in the future past the 6 books, there's that trilogy out there for you. I could link it to y'all if you want.
Yeah. I've heard of those. I haven't read.
They're actually really good. Really good trilogy.
I heard that they tied into Star Wars issue 27 of 1999, which was Star Crash, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
That random issue. Yeah, that random issue with that random Jedi, and it's like in an almost anime style. almost. It feels like
Yeah.
I don't know about anime, but it's kind of like Japanese looking art on like the eyes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it was so weird. It was just a one-off, and it was completely just random side
You definitely
story.
have my attention.
Yeah,
It
and
is a weird story for sure.
it was like,
I always
what is
pictured
going
that
on
guy.
right now?
I believed firmly that he would go back to that planet one time and he would become the king.
Hmm.
I hope
Yeah.
that might be what happens in this story.
And in the Jedi Prince fanfic, do you remember in Jedi Prince it said that Ken's mom was a Jedi princess?
Hmm.
That's such a weird title, Jedi Princess. Like that's a title that we only heard, I think, in Jedi Prince, which makes it kind of wacky. And so they tie that back by saying that she's like a descendant of those people who are like with the monarchy, the like Jedi King,
Hmm.
and it's a descendant. The Jedi Princess is Ken's mom, which is so cool. I love that.
It's awesome.
It's really neat.
That is beautiful. Way better than I would have written.
Yeah, my headcanon is Rhoda got eaten on accident circa 19 BBY.
Jabba was hungry.
Dinner became a snack.
He was slightly too close to Jabba's snack.
Oh, what is this? Oh, it's my son. Damn.
Imagine the mild disappointment that you conveyed there. Oh man, it's my
Oh
son.
man, that's my son. Just imagine, like, you just like hear. Just,
After I
everything
cared
is
so
quiet.
much about him in the Clone Wars.
Everything's quiet in Jabba's palace, and then you just hear from Jabba's belly. Let me out! What is this place?
That's horrible. You almost just made me feel bad for Rhoda, but then I remembered it's Rhoda.
It's Rhoda. Yep.
Yeah, Stinky.
Stinky Hut.
Yeah, that's hilarious. What do you guys think did happen to Rhoda? Do you think this is an acceptable explanation? Do you think he's out there?
I think
What
he's
do
out
you
there
guys think?
begging for change on Coruscant somewhere. Since
Be-
the Hutt
beg-
Empire is completely, the Hutt Empire is like completely gone from what I know, and Rhoda's
Yeah.
just out there on Coruscant, just to spare change, please. Anyone can spare like a
Can you
credit.
spare credit?
Can you spare a credit for a poor Hutt such as myself?
Jabba handed off Zero's operation to his son as a test.
Jabba did not hand anything off to his son.
That's funny. I don't remember what this would be in reference to.
Oh, I think it's about having a really long podcast.
Okay, gotcha. Having supernatural encounters, super literary encounters be very long. I would say that is definitely worth congratulating because it's excellent
Absolutely.
analysis. Haven't read Legacy yet, gang. Marvel, please put out the omnibus. Please, I beg you. I don't want to pay $300 for Volume 2 of the Epic.
True.
If I find something out, I'll let you know. I found mine for pretty cheap.
Nice. I read Legacy while I was reading Legacy of the Force, so it was a little bit weird. I had a bit of that whiplash, and since the Fell Empire existed, I was like, oh, so it's not going to be Zek. It's probably going to be Jagged, who like Jaina marries. And so it was kind of like a spoiler there since I was reading them concurrently. You know, sometimes EU media does like spoil itself. You know, Survivor's Quest and Outbound Flight. Like if you read Outbound Flight before Survivor's Quest, you're kind of like, well, I know everything that's going on. So it's kind of funny. Have you guys ever had like an instance of like where you read something from the EU and you're like, well, now that I've read this completely spoils what's supposed to be a reveal or like a mystery elsewhere?
Yes, actually. I read Star by Star before I read any of the other New Jedi Order.
Oh, wow.
That's a big jump.
I won't even, get into the implications of that, but
how
it was just sort of like, I don't know, I felt kind of numb about it. I will say I read Vector Prime later and I still cried, so it must have not messed me up too bad.
Yeah.
Funny. I was spoiled for Darth Kaitis's fate in the EU form, and then I read Legacy of the Force, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, I
it's
used to
coming.
deep dive look like a lot, so I think I knew more about Star Wars before reading the books.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just see it unfold on the pages.
I had the same thing for me. So like with Chewbacca in Vector Prime, I'd had that spoiled because I read Wikipedia as well.
Hmm.
Then reading it, I was still like going, please don't happen, please don't happen. But it was also kind of surreal to see it unfold on the pages, what I'd seen like summarized. Did you feel like that way ever reading the EU as well, where it's like, oh, now I'm actually reading the material and this is weird to see it happen because like I pictured it, but this is like how it did happen.
Hmm.
Absolutely, many times.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because Wikipedia is obviously a great source of information. Well, sometimes it does stuff like not include supernatural encounters or gets information wrong. And now it doesn't really maintain the legend side of the site as much, which is kind of sad. Like there's not as much going on over there, not as much updates. But at the same time, it's a great source of information. But sometimes when reading those summaries, it'll get me confused because the summaries aren't always like exactly how it happens in the text. And so sometimes it's a little bit confusing. I feel like when the summaries don't always gel with it. Joe Bongiorno talked about that for writing Supernatural Encounters. He put it on his site where he said like he'd have to go to the actual source of everything. Like if he checked Wikipedia for like a character or a reference, he'd have to go to the original source because there were instances where Wikipedia was wrong or had like inferred something. So he had to go back and check just to make sure, which tells you how exhaustive the writing process must have been.
Yeah.
We have Dr. Royce Crater. Corey says, I don't know why, given all the other silliness going on, but I still laugh at all the Moffs gathering on a ship called the Moff Ship. I unironically love it.
Moff ship versus a Bong ship.
Who do you got there, Ken? Who wins?
Moff ship.
Yeah.
Is it a competition?
It's the tactical genius of the Moff. They're just like, yeah.
The Moffs would just say, activate attack pattern dark greetings.
Activate attack pattern dinner.
Yeah. I mean, say what you will about Jedi Prince. I've loved the positivity we're seeing in the comments towards Jedi Prince. Always great to see.
Absolutely. Love to see it.
But I think something that no one could criticize, like no one, is the art on the covers. They're gorgeous.
Art is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, is that true?
I don't know. Is it? Maybe Scott Johnson in the comments can tell us. I see the signature down there. I can't tell if it's his signature or not. I can't tell. Does it say?
I'm seeing something that says like finished art by Carl Kessel.
I can get my
Although it seems like penciling was done by someone else too.
Yeah,
Jim
the
Brigman.
internal art. The internal art's actually pretty good too, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it.
I don't even remember this Duros.
Oh yeah, there's Duros in there. There's a Hodin in there as well, which is always cool to see those guys pop up. Yeah. It could kind of dilute the tragedy that the prequels went to play with. Yeah, I think talking about Padme there, but be more consistent with the Return of the Jedi dialogue.
Yeah, I can. In the vacuum where the prequel trilogy does not exist, I vibe with what you're putting down.
He's right. That's fascinating. Interesting to think about. Dark greetings. Hey,
it's been a while.
Hey, that's perfect. That ties into Jedi Prince and Ken.
Mm-hmm. Greetings.
I mean, I believe it would be Brea that Leia remembered, not Padme.
It ends up being because of the prequel trilogy, actually no, because in Revenge of the Sith, I believe it was the intent of George Lucas to try and get one of the babies to keep her eyes open. So that would be the implication, is that just one of these children looked at Padme before she died.
That is
Wow.
very morbid on George
Yeah.
Lucas's part. Just
That's
to
actually-
have like an important infant look at her own dying.
Well, he
mother.
definitely didn't decide not to do it because it would be bad. It was because the child wouldn't keep her eyes open.
That's crazy that they were trying to do that for continuity.
It is crazy.
Mhm.
That's actually wild that was something that they were dealing with. The producers were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, why can't this baby keep its eyes open?"
All right,
It
so
might
here's
even-
the scene. We're gonna have the baby keep its eyes open.
It could even be in the novelization. I don't know for sure.
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've read that novel. It's been a while since I had to analyze that novel for my notes for my next movie.
Only Good Games likes the idea of Kent Palpatine. It sounds like
It's a fun idea, but
that
think it
the
doesn't-
execution just because of his ending. If he had a more heroic ending, I might accept it more.
yeah. I just don't like how Ken Palpatine, Kent Hamner, just he does all that stuff at the end. He's very un-Jedi-like at his end,
Mm.
I would agree.
and would not do that.
And this is the other thing. It seems like Kent Hamner might be a bit older than Luke, which obviously doesn't gel
Doesn't
to
vibe.
Jedi Prince.
Ken
Yeah.
was a kid when he met Luke. Maybe he did.
If only.
With the third eye, he kind of got caught in the charnel worlds.
Have you guys seen Multiverse of Madness, the Doctor Strange movie?
Oh yeah.
Not.
And in the end, he like opens a third eye in the middle of his head. It'd just be like that. Ken is walking around the on Yavin in the ruins in the Jedi Temple, and then just collapses to his knees and like opens up a third eye in the middle of his head.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got. I don't know. You could play around with that whole like, is he gonna turn? Because as a child, there's definite. It could. It doesn't really go either way because that's just not how. You see children. They don't really turn to evil, at least not in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
But if you took a story where Ken was maybe in his late teens, young adulthood, and he's having that kind of struggle, I could definitely see maybe an eye pops out and that gets him.
Yeah,
So
maybe
the dark side
yeah.
touches him.
that would be very similar to like Anakin Solo's struggle. Now that you mention it, like
Mhm.
because Ken has to worry about like what if I'm going to be touched by the dark side. Anakin Solo also like struggled with that in Junior Jedi Knights. He
Mhm.
was like, what if I become like my grandfather? This is a big name to live up to. What if I end up like him? And it was like a fear. It was a nightmare he had. And I just find that so fascinating. And I never noticed until you said that parallel where Ken and Anakin both had that same struggle.
Mhm.
That's very interesting. This is interesting too. There's a surprising amount of Luke students that are older than him.
I think-
Streen, right? Streen is older than him.
I think that speaks to Luke
10th?
being more flexible in his teachings. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you have the Force, I can teach you. It's not like being
Yeah.
a
I
Jedi.
think this was a response to the Kent being older than Luke, which I think was mentioned because Ken is obviously younger than Luke,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but Luke does have a lot of older students for sure.
It's really interesting. I think that kind of shows his maturity as well. And like Ken just said, his flexibility.
Mhm.
It's pretty cool that they had that happen where he's got students of all ages, of all species.
Mhm.
Luke's so cool. I mean, he's so
Awesome.
cool in the old timeline, isn't he?
Luke is amazing. Bro never gave up on anything.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
It honestly sometimes makes me emotional to think about because it's like this is the fulfillment of that hero I imagined him being when I watched the movies.
Mhm.
We're
sad because with like the Disney films, he just gives up, and it's like, okay, why? Luke
Yeah.
wouldn't just do that.
yeah, I know. It's
To touch
mean,
on
maybe-
that though, with Rise of Skywalker, the comparison between Ken and Rey.
yeah,
Ken, he doesn't give up. He doesn't like. Yeah, I'm a Palpatine. I don't want to be that. Like no, like he embraces his bloodline. He's like, I'll be better. Versus Rey's like, I'm gonna hide and
that's true.
Rey Skywalker.
Yeah, she
So-
kind of jumped ship with her lineage, but he kind of embraces it and is like, well, what if I'm the change?
Exactly.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's some untapped potential that never got covered for his character.
I think Ken Palpatine, just as a name, is almost a joke in itself. Well, that too.
And Ken, like,
Just
that's
because
cool.
they never call him Ken Palpatine.
No,
They never
So we just like run with it. I think it might have even been in response to the whole Rey Skywalker thing.
Probably.
okay,
Mm.
that's interesting. So both of you guys' usernames are Ken Palpatine.
Yes.
So what prompted both of you to add the Palpatine part?
I think the other
That's
part
better
is
than
that
my
if you
dad.
say that you're Ken, it's kind of confusing. It's not specific.
Like
Yeah.
Barbie Ken,
Yeah.
as we joked about before the stream.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got worried after the movie came out that people were going to start thinking that I was referencing the Barbie movie rather than an actual character.
Yeah. I mean, the good of the Barbie movie is that it showed me that Ryan Gosling should play Ken Palpatine in a Jedi Prince adaptation.
Absolutely.
For sure.
If you guys were to seriously fan cast, who would you look to? Do you guys
Timothy
like to do the
Chalamet.
fan casts? I'm not too
Yeah.
good at fan casts, but I sometimes try.
Well, actually, to speak on that, I have been working on for a while, which I put off, is a fan cast of the Bantam EU. Well, actually, it's just all post Return of the Jedi. But if we, continue on with 1983 being when Return of the Jedi happens, therefore for ABY, then True Sepakura needs to also happen in 1983. So then I would have to cast based on the actors that they had available and their ages at that time. So I've gotten into, I think I reached Dark Empire before I got bored, but I'll come back to it. One of
That's really
my cool ones, Alan Rickman as Thrawn.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's actually really
90s
good.
Alec
Very,
Rickman.
That I like that better than the Benedict Cumberbatch Thrawn
Mhm.
fan cast.
Mhm.
And I like that fan cast, but I like that one better.
Yeah.
Alan Rickman definitely the Hans Gruber vibe to Thrawn works.
Mhm. But to fan cast Ken, I'll let you go
I
first.
think Timothy Chalamet or Kyle MacLachlan from the original Dune film. They had the hair and the face, so I figured.
I
both
can
of them.
see Chalamet being like a
Chalamet's definitely like a teenage Ken.
yes. He's fairly versatile too, I'd say.
Yeah.
So he could be like that, all like wonder. Ooh, I love my pet monkey.
Mhm.
Ooh, I'm gonna be a Jedi.
Ooh, I'm
Ooh,
gonna go to
Obi-Wan's my
Hologram
father.
Fun World.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
gonna go to
Hologram
Hologram
Fun
Fun
World.
World and get my cotton candy.
Ken was just like a privileged version of Luke. Luke wanted to go to Tasha Station for power converters, but Ken had a bit of privilege behind him. He was an upper class version of Luke. He would go to Hologram Fun World and get cotton candy.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Shows the stark contrast between their characters. What do you think? Cooler Ken?
I absolutely agree with that. I think that there's some, just in the illustrations that we have of Ken, there's some Dune resonances
Yeah.
that you can kind of see with the costuming and such.
Mm.
Ken
You
is
guys
the
might have
Kwisatz
seen,
Haderach.
Sorry,
yeah,
what?
what did you say?
Ken is the Kwisatz Haderach of
Yes. It was, well, my profile picture you've probably seen. I had Finn Wolfhard photoshopped in as a character. I think this was, well, the first Dune had probably come out by then, but it really wasn't on my mind.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. I kept looking. I was like, he kind of looks like the Stranger Things kid, because Timothy Chalamet is a grown man, so it was a little off-putting for me to picture him as Ken.
I just think he has that young-looking face, so I can picture him
Yeah.
pulling it off. So
Yeah, for sure. So your fan cast then is Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things.
Yeah, though I do appreciate the Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, I can see Finn Wolfhard doing that. I think Timothy Chalamet has more range, but
Mhm.
Finn Wolfhard might more resemble actual Ken. Maybe we'll just combine the two together and get our perfect Ken.
I think there is actually some art of Ken that is extremely close. Or actually, maybe this is a fan thing. I had it on my like banner for a while, but it was basically Kyle MacLachlan's face in like a Jedi robe.
Yeah,
But maybe that was actual art. I'd have to go back and look at it.
I've seen that art before.
Yeah.
that's cool. As far as Ken goes, you both have showed your credentials, of course, for being Jedi Prince experts already. But where would Ken rank for you guys in like a maybe not an ironic list, but where would he rank as like a legitimate top contending character for you guys? Would he make like a top 25 EU characters list? Would he push top 10? Is he at least in the top 50?
He's top 15 for me at least.
Top 15.
25. Yeah.
25? Nice. Okay, so there yeah, I where would I put him? Oh man, every time I sit down to try to do like a EU characters ranked list, I'm like, how can I have 300 characters in my top 50? It's just so hard to like split hairs and decide. One character who I was surprised that like made it all the way in is Arhul Hextrafon. I was surprised how much I actually really loved that character from Supernatural Encounters, and he squirmed his way into like top 15, like found a place in my heart. I think I put him 10 in my most recent list that I did. But yeah, it's cool that you guys both have Ken up there, at least in the top competition there for favorite character. Now, how about Jedi Prince itself? How does it stack up against other young readers' novels within the EU?
I would say, I think my favorite series is probably Last of the Jedi. I have
Last
not
of the
read
Jedi.
Galaxy of Fear.
I have not read
Rebel Force probably goes lower. It's odd because I think those two children's series are really the ones that I feel like I read more organically. Because I actually grew up reading Last of the Jedi, and Jedi Prince was, right in the time before I was really interacting with people or doing some like speed reading, chrono. Although I do like the Young Jedi Knight stories.
that
Junior
series
Jedi Knight probably goes
for one.
lower. Yeah. I think that there was some potential. I wish that, I don't know, that Phantom Menace had come out like a few years later, because I just love what the Bantam era gave to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Having more Young Jedi Knight books, I think that they had a lot of potential. They were eventually
Show even that they were gonna do.
Oh
The show, yeah.
that would they would have
amazing.
That would have been.
they would have stayed alive. Yeah.
Can you imagine what a classic that would have been if, like, during the time of the prequels, they were also airing a Young Jedi Knight show? It would have been like, you know how like Smallville for DC is like loved is like this old like almost cult classic now at this point. It would be like that. It would be like a classic show of the 90s that
For
people
sure.
love to revisit.
X-Men 97 of Star Wars.
Yeah. It would have been, man, I would have loved to see that so much.
I think that they would have taken the characters from Junior Jedi Knights and they would have integrated them into Young Jedi Knights. They were going to do another, saga portion of this after they did that trilogy. And Anakin was already hanging around with them. It was only a matter of time before Tahiri and Ikrik kind of come along on their adventures.
If only Ken could have made it over as well.
If only. He could have been a teacher there.
Be a grown man.
Just he's like 30 years old now and he's just hanging out with them.
Hey kids.
How do you do, fellow kids?
How do you do, fellow Jedi youngins?
The thing that always amused me, let me think about this. I believe it's Ken, Kip Duron, and Jaden Core are all the same age.
Are they? Oh wow,
yeah,
that
yeah.
puts it
All
in
born in
interesting.
7 BBY.
that puts it in really interesting perspective.
Mhm.
So Jaden, Kip, and Ken, is that who you said?
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild.
That's
Because
crazy.
Kip was really young in the JAT,
Mhm.
but Jedi Prince takes place before the JAT, right?
Yeah, 5 ABY
So that's why Ken was
roughly.
much younger than even a young Kip in the JAT. That means
Mhm.
Jaden's really old when he gets to the academy, because that's
Yeah,
after
I'm
that.
I'm pretty sure that's correct. Let me check Wikipedia.
Fascinating, because oh man, because
That's crazy.
that's
When I
really
think about
interesting.
Ken could have easily made it into NJO, but that could have worked, honestly.
They could have
Oh,
been bros going around.
Yeah, Ken could have
Kip,
been part of Kip's dozen easily.
absolutely,
It
absolutely.
doesn't say that about Jaden. I don't know about Jaden. It might be
Okay.
someone else.
Okay. Interesting though. Very interesting.
Mhm.
Kenneth is older than Luke. That's why I couldn't get behind the theory of him being Kenny Palps. Yeah, I love the phrase Kenny Palps as well. That's
Kenny.
beautiful.
Call for Papa Palpatine.
Palpatine.
No, it was Padme, and there was an interview with George Long before he made the prequels. That Padme didn't have a name at the time, took Leia to Alderaan, and she died when Leia was 2. Okay, interesting. So he said in like an old interview that
Mhm.
her mother took her to Alderaan. That's interesting. And that is in the Return of the Jedi novel. So it's in the Return of the Jedi novel. Padme died when Luke and Leia were 4. Okay, I've not read the James Caan Return of the Jedi novel. I've not read that one, and there's one other. I've only read portions of the Attack of the Clones one.
It's a good book.
Yeah, from what I've read so far, there's some really cool Tusken stuff in Attack of the Clones novelization, and stuff with Padme's family that's really
Yes.
cool. But yeah, that's interesting. I've not read James Caan's Return of the Jedi novel. I thought the original 76 Star Wars novel. This is pretty good. This one's pretty good. The Empire Strikes Back one, it's likewise pretty good. It's not that special though, I feel like.
Mhm.
So I haven't taken the time to get the Return of the Jedi one yet, but it sounds like that might be the most important lore-wise one of all of them.
That's the origin for Owen being Ben's brother too.
Yes. Okay, that's so interesting. I
That
love
monologue that he gives, it's probably pretty lore heavy and obviously got changed for the final scripting, but it indicates that was on George's mind.
Yeah. It's so funny how they used to think that they were brothers. Like if you find old EU source books like in West End Games or like the old Essential Guide to Characters, it's just like, yeah, it's just a known fact that Owen and Obi-Wan are brothers.
Well, not even that, but that Obi-Wan is from Tatooine.
Yeah. And also in Jedi Apprentice, it mentions that Obi-Wan has a brother named Owen who he dreams of, but then in later years it was retconned to where that's not Uncle Owen.
Vision of the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Separate Owens. She died protecting Leia. That's interesting. Died protecting her from what?
Haven't read that novel in a long time.
Yeah.
Indeed.
We got the two Kens up in here. Yeah. Out of EU's Jedi, I honestly wish we got more of Deppa's time as a master before dying to Vader. Deppa's time as a master.
Well, this might be a hot take, but I always have pictured Depa Billaba like they storm the Jedi Temple, and Vader finds her, and he doesn't. What was it? She's in like a comatose state, so it's
She's like
what's the
lying
point
in
of
the
just
garden, right?
Yeah. So honestly, I could see Palpatine like using her as some weird Force conduit.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's a partially realized idea. Someone wants to use that for a fanfic. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I can see them having use, like Inquisitors, obviously, of former Jedi, like that existed in the EU before it existed in like Disney canon. The idea of former Jedi became Inquisitors. We had like Tremaine in the West End game stuff, Jarek, all
Mhm.
these people.
Mhm.
I can totally see them having some use for Deppa, and like you said, she's just laying there unconscious. What's the use going to be in like just stabbing her? Whisk her away to their fortress, and
I could
I don't
see
know.
Anakin just killing her in like a fit of rage, a moment of like emotion. He just like,
Yeah,
die.
it could go either way.
yeah, it's interesting. We have another super chat thing here. Thank you very much. I would like to see a story with an old Jedi Prince Ken and Alana, Queen of the Jedi, since both have royal blood. I really like that.
It's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
A Hand of Thrawn story if I've ever seen one.
It better be.
I hope you're right. Something like
Like,
that.
wait, the vision that they have of Alana, Jason saw her with like a dark man sitting on the throne.
Mhm.
That's implied to be Crate.
What if the Dark
What-
Man's Ken?
What if the dark man's Ken?
What
What
happened
if he
to
does grow a third eye
What
and
if- yeah,
become
what
a dark man, become the dark king of the Sith, and take the Queen of the Jedi to be his much, much younger bride?
Mhm.
Yeah,
It would be. I don't like
depends
that.
what year it is.
Yeah. That's great. I like that. There's so many stories we should have seen.
Of course,
You.
Al. I gotcha. Question for y'all. Lightsaber hilt for Ken. What is your headcanon for that?
Oh yeah, he does have a lightsaber implied.
But if he had to like get one in his later years, what kind of hilt do you think he would use?
Do you think he'd go for like? Doesn't Palpatine have like a gold hilted lightsaber? That's like got gold
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
on it. Do you think he'd go for that? Like out of like with his
I definitely
his
think
grandfather?
with a curved hilt, be all like
Eh, I definitely, well, because I think the way we were talking about Ken kind of going off and being a wayward Jedi, there's some level of him like renouncing his riches and such to take on a more humbled being. So I could definitely see it being simpler. I
What
could
if-
see a curved lightsaber for like aerodynamic capabilities. Maybe
Ken
he's
doesn't use a lightsaber. What if he kind of embraces his inner Paul Atreides and decides, I'm just gonna use like a short sword and like
he uses electric judgment all the
laser
time.
pistol or something. He's gonna be I'm the Muad'Dib, Lisan al Gaib.
I could see him doing like the salute with the sword.
Yeah,
Speaking of hilts, actually, so I've got this here. I want to show off
ooh,
where I've got
Whoa,
Dude,
is that
proud.
very nice.
yeah.
you met him?
Yes. It
Where'd you meet
was.
him at?
I believe it was Boston. I went to a Boston convention, and he was there. My cousin took a picture of him signing the lightsaber, but I knew he was so tall. It was wild. But my family ran a booth that they used to travel around with. But I also got Billy D. Williams.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I saw him at Niagara Falls. We've got Anthony Daniels, who got really mad at me for making him sign this lightsaber toy. What was he?
Why did he get frustrated about that?
Well, so I hand this to him, and he's like, "Do I have to?" And I was like, and so he's looking for like the largest spot. And I'll tell you, Daniel Logan explained to me later, it's because Anthony loves signing huge. So there wasn't any space on this that he could make his
Sign
name huge. So then I was like, could you do the arm thing? He's like, no. I was like, you're my favorite character. He's like, why didn't you dress up as me? It was he was
That's
doing this bit. Yeah, no, he was amazing. Because I went to his panel. He shows up for like the first 10 minutes. People are asking him questions, and he's like, boring. I don't care. And he's like, do I have to be here? And eventually he gets up, everyone claps, and he leaves. And then he comes back. And he's like, actually, I could, I'll send this to you guys because someone did tape it. Where then he's super animated and he's doing the arm thing. That's all I want. he was great.
Yeah,
Sounds really amazing.
that's so cool. He
Mhm.
seems like such a cool guy, and he had a lot of involvement with the EU as well.
Yeah.
Droids cartoon series. I think he co-wrote one of the Droids comics as well.
Yes. Yeah, the
so
Dark
he,
Horse ones.
Yeah, he had an active involvement in the expanding the universe, which is just
Mhm.
so cool.
So I realized recently, him and Ahmed Best are actually in the cantina in Attack of the Clones, and they play two con men.
I knew that about
Ahmed Best. Yeah,
The other
yeah,
one
they're
was
together.
Anthony Daniels?
They're actually, they're two con men who are pretending to be Coruscant security.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What's amazing about this is then there was a comic during the TCW era where these two guys pull up to Jar Jar and C-3PO, and they start like conning them into doing something for them. So it's
That's
Anthony
amazing.
and Anthony and Ahmed.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love stuff like that.
That's
Yeah.
great.
That's amazing. It was by Drew Struzan.
Makes
That's
sense.
awesome. Does tell Leia kept looking at Padme when she was born.
Thank you.
That's cool. That's cool that Stover did that. It's Stover, right? Yes. In a hypothetical timeline where Anakin Solo survived and Jason still turns, how would Anakin react and deal with the situation? What do you guys think?
That's a tough question.
There is someone tried to answer this. A fan fiction author wrote a lot of stories about just this concept. I don't know if Jason still turns, but
I don't know what you're talking about though. It's the Anakin survives Star by Star.
Yeah, some guy's name was like Origami Fish.
Oh yeah.
It's something like Destiny rewritten, something along those lines.
I don't think Jason turns in that series, but I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm. I remember someone saying like, "Oh, if Jason died instead and Anakin turned to the dark side, how do you think things would play out?" And I remember a lot of us argued that Anakin wouldn't turn to the dark side.
Definitely wouldn't.
I don't think that he would.
At that point, you'd need to have Jaina turn to the dark side.
Jaina turned to the dark side as a
Jaina did turn to the dark side in Dark Journey.
Mm-hmm.
And Kip is there was a weird thing with Kip. I didn't really like that very much.
Yeah, that was weird.
Don't talk about that.
I like to largely forget about that, but Jaina in the dark side. That's an interesting thought because she could be the sword of the dark Jedi still, like
Sword of the Sith.
Just a battle prowess that she has.
She would
be such a fierce energy.
Powerful.
She would be like a maniacal kind of Sith. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like kind of off the rails a little bit.
Chaotic, evil type. Whereas Jason's more of a lawful evil.
Yeah, because he's pretty logical overall, I'd say.
I don't think that she cares much to, form alliances with people and play the political game in order to get that. I think she would probably use sheer force of will to
dominate people.
Whereas Jason would like move people around like chess pieces to acquire power. Jaina would just like Jaina would find the like most powerful person and just like kill him. Yeah, it's interesting the difference in their characterization, but that's an interesting thing to think about. Anakin would obviously be heartbroken by Jason turning evil, but I think Anakin Solo, if he'd been alive, and presumably if Jaina was still going to kill Jason, I feel like Anakin Solo would be very angry at Jaina for that. Anakin would be like Luke and optimistic and be like, there's still good in him. And wouldn't he go like that route where he'd be like trying to turn him back? I feel like more so than Jaina did.
Absolutely.
And it would be pretty easy for him, I think, because the trauma of losing Anakin Solo is a huge motivator for Jason. So removing him from the equation, we have a Jason who's a lot less
traumatized.
Certain. Well, yeah, he's doesn't have like a huge reason to do this outside of whatever Lumaya is telling him.
You're absolutely right. That's so fascinating to think about. I hate the thing. I love the story and hate that it unfolded the way it did at the same time. You know what I mean? It's tragic,
Mhm.
especially with Jason being one of my favorites. Luke's unwavering heroism in the books is so powerful. It really is.
Absolutely. He's the ultimate hero in my mind.
Absolutely. As a longtime Empire at War mod fan, I love that Thrawn's Revenge has included the Central Committee of Grand Moffs as a playable faction. No
Interesting.
among fans, the love and recognition is that's amazing. Love the Jedi Prince love.
Mhm.
It's good stuff. Can you imagine Ken Palpatine being a name he's called by peers as a prank / bullying?
Hey, you Ken Palpatine. What are you doing over there? Sitting alone, drinking
That's
your blue milk.
Desan. Desan would absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. That's so funny. Since the Thrawn trilogy was written in the early 90s, Zahn is Leia having the flashback about her mother's death from the Return of the Jedi. Right. I did read in the Phantom Menace Jr. novel, Anakin had a vision of Padme leading a rebellion against Anakin as Darth Vader. That's
so much crazy stuff in these Junior novels, huh?
That's really wild. That's really wild. I did not know about that.
That sounds like
Yeah,
some
you'd think
Halo stuff, to be honest with you.
Lucasfilm would have probably tried to, control that a little bit more.
Yeah, you'd think, right? Maybe they didn't care as much for the Junior novels.
Children's book, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Now this is a wild fan cast.
Bruce Willis as Darth Bane.
I would have liked to see Bruce Willis as Darth Bane. Now, what he could do is in those action sequences where he's like Dessel, where he's like a soldier, Bruce Willis would nail that. He plays the soldier carrying around the blaster rifle very well.
Absolutely.
I can also see the visual. I just don't know if he has the depth and range to show like a turmoiled man turning to the dark side.
Yeah, he's kind of an action hero casting guy.
Yeah.
I assume this is a 90s fan cast too.
Yeah. He had the look, if only the EU could have continued.
He definitely has the look.
I'd say so. Legends continues. I wish Underworld was made as a Legends show, and I don't ask for more Legends shows and movies. I only ask for the Underworld show, besides new books and comics. Yeah, would have been cool to see, especially with like rumors that Quinlan Voss and Das Jenner were being considered for the show. Like that's very fascinating.
If there were scripts, I'd love to see them.
If there are scripts in existence, I'll take it as canon. You know, like Heart of the Jedi situation. We'll print up the scripts on Amazon or something. You know. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Very interesting fan cast for Ken. What do you think, Marcel? What's your fan cast for Ken Palpatine?
Thank you, Marcel.
We've thrown out Timothy Chalamet and Finn Wolfhard. Is there anyone else who you guys would consider? What about some other Jedi Prince characters? Who would voice Zorba?
Zorba? Ooh. That's a tough one.
Well, he speaks Huttese, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you really get much.
Trioculus? Ooh.
If it's a children's show, maybe you'd have a person, but it would just end up being like Christopher Lloyd came to mind for a moment. Although there's no like basis for that at all.
Do you know? Do you guys know Patton Oswalt?
Patton Oswalt?
Yeah.
Maybe he's Zorba.
H.G. Wells is Zorba. Orson Welles, not H.G. Wells.
I cast Vincent Price as Blue Scale when I was doing my Truce at Bakura casting. It would have been the only opportunity to have him.
It's not a bad casting choice.
Yeah.
For
Zendaya as Ken.
Zendaya as Ken?
Zendaya as Ken.
That's the best fan casting I've ever heard. Like they're identical in appearance.
Absolutely.
That's for Triclops, it's really hard to think about who would have that like commanding, menacing energy, but Benedict Cumberbatch is coming to mind. I think. I mean, I've already seen him with the CGI third eye in the middle of his head. So
weirdly enough, Sean Connery as Triclops would be funny.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I kind of like that. Along the lines of Bonds,
But Sean can
Um,
definitely play a good villain. That's for sure.
Oh, Pierce Brosnan would kind of has
That's-
that Triclops
Pierce
That's
look
Brosnan
to
has
him.
the face, but I
That's what
just
I
don't
was
see him
thinking
as like
too.
a villain.
Yeah.
Roger Moore, maybe. He's too can't.
Nah,
Moore
he's
can't be.
He's too
got the
handsome.
look though. He's kind of got a similar
He's
vibe.
got the look, but he's too campy of an act. Not campy, but like he
Yeah.
plays the hero role better. The villain. Christopher
right.
Walken, maybe.
I find it funny to visualize Carrie Fisher playing the robot Leia. How would she approach that? Like, I love Carrie Fisher as Leia, but I don't think she has too much range as an actress. So how would she approach playing like an android? I love to think how she would play that.
Actually, I think I can kind of picture her like raising her arm up in the most like robotic way possible. I think that she could really run with the whole what would you call it, stiff bit.
Yeah,
Stiff
ma-
motions.
maybe.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I
she
just
would
can't
have
see
loved to do it. She would have loved that
Absolutely.
because Carrie Fisher, like, she loved the holiday special for how wacky it was, and I feel like she'd she'd have fun with that. I feel like.
Mhm.
What about the Moths? What about the main Moth? Hiska, was that his name?
Hissa?
Hissa, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I've seen one like that.
Christopher Lee is Hissa, maybe?
Christopher Lee.
No,
I'm thinking of his
no.
Dracula. His Dracula cat.
What about
Yeah, he's got shaved down teeth.
what about Macaulay Culkin as Ken from Home Alone?
Oh god.
if you had to pick someone from the era?
Oh, that would be
Although-
so weird.
Be very strange.
I don't know. I think there's some. I'd probably want to play someone else.
Macaulay Culkin is Zorba.
Chuck Norris is Zorba.
That's amazing. I love that. Too bad Underworld would never be finished ever again. Yeah, it's unfortunate. They could at least adapt the Underworld scripts as novels or comics. Yeah, that would be cool. Absolutely adore Smallville. Yeah. Adapt as novels or comics, even if they don't give us. Yeah. Yeah.
So they did that with the other show. What was that called? Just Rebellion?
Yeah, the
It's like
I know
10
what you're talking
episodes.
yeah, and they
Yeah.
yeah. Smallville has the best live action Lex Luthor and among the best Kents. Yeah, my aunts are huge fans of that show. Mostly I think because they just found the lead actors to be handsome. Are all a part of the same government program.
They're all like government psyop.
Yeah.
Well, some of them had clones in the Cross Current and Riptide books.
Oh
so,
yeah.
Mhm.
You know.
Interesting concept that in those books.
What people don't realize is that Ken could have aged faster. That's true.
That is true, Marcel.
That is true. Triclops was in his 30s and looked like an old man. You're right. So, could that is that like supporting the Kent theory, perhaps, with looking older?
I guess maybe because of that, like Ken goes a little bit like insane. Maybe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You never know. Kennedy says they don't have source material. Well, she says that a lot. I'm not sure the flashback says that Padme and Leia were running and hiding in a truck. Oh, wow. That's the flashback seems to
Space
imply
truck.
she was killed by the Empire. Oh, wow.
That's wacky.
It took it a really like war-centered direction. Is that that's the ones written by who wrote those? Did Terry Bison write those or Patricia C. Redel or something like that? I don't know.
The which one?
The episode 1 Phantom Menace Junior novels. I think that was maybe Bison.
Yeah.
Terry Bison. Niagara
I know
Falls.
they wrote, nearby.
What, was it at a convention or did you just like?
Yeah. It's called the Niagara Falls Comic Con.
Gotcha. Nice.
Yeah.
And that lightsaber's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm really bad with the sabers. I mean, I don't know whose this is actually. Someone was insisting it was Yoda's.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say it looks like Anakin Skywalker's hilt, but then it was green.
Hmm. So I don't know if anyone's recognizes this well enough.
That's
It might just be something that they took from the movies just to make a toy. I like these better than if you've got one that just always is extended and it lights up.
Yeah.
I think this is more realistic.
Used to have one of those too.
I have the telescopic flip open Obi-Wan Anakin, and I have Vader. I have Anakin / Luke, the blue one, and I have I guess / Mara as well, and I have Vader's as well. That's how I got in my first fight. The only fight I've ever had that was like a serious fight. I was, with my cousin, playing lightsabers, and then we hit each other in the fingers too many times that eventually became fists and flying kicks. But we're good friends, so we laugh about it now. But it devolved into chaos, somewhat comedically.
Any more fan casts for EU characters like Jason, Jag, Zek, Jaina?
My dumb one is that you take Harrison Ford's kids and you make them play Jaina and Jason for like their entire lives. Actually, my hot take is that around the time where you have like Anakin Solo stories, Jake Lloyd would probably make a pretty good Anakin Solo.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
That's like a good idea.
Yeah.
I have a dumb one though for Jag. Jean-Claude Van Damme.
With Jaina, Carrie Fisher's daughter's an actress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's another
I can
option.
see that one a little bit.
Jaina's always been a tough one for me.
It's hard to capture, I feel like, that Harrison Ford like look and vibe that Jason and Anakin would have had.
Do you think young Tom Cruise could do Jag, like Top Gun, Mission Impossible, Cruise?
I like young Tom Cruise as Jason, actually.
That's not a bad choice. Come
to think of it, like Top Gun, Tom Cruise as Jason. He could be in the pilot scenes.
I just feel like he fits
Yeah.
the Jag vibe more. He's the pilot ace.
Yeah, you're right. I can see that. I can really see that, actually. I always think I just had an idea for Hissa from Jedi Prince. Get Patrick Stewart to do it.
Oh boy, that would be fun.
As a huge Star Trek
fan, maybe.
Kind of cool.
Ooh, yeah.
Another one that I think about is like Ashrad Het / Crate, because I know you've not read all of Legacy, but he's obviously a pretty important character.
I know enough.
Yeah. It's hard not to avoid spoilers for these books in the fandom.
Yeah, no, quite all right. Years ago, nothing you said.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to think about like who would be able to have that range of such a heroic kind of mystical Jedi in the Clone Wars and then be like so evil later on.
It's crazy to think about who could play him. Gotta have someone with range though.
Exactly. The whole idea of George's sequels makes me nervous. Everything about it. Yeah. I just don't like what he was cooking. I'm one of the few people who I think thinks that those would have the potential to perhaps be just as bad as the Disney sequels. I just don't like everything about what I'd heard about it. And I just feel like he had no love invested into that either.
I heard that there was a level of desperation to kind of save his studio that went into making that right up originally.
That's why he did Clone Wars, right? Because they were like, we have to produce something. And so he felt pressured into doing a show. And then I think he was like being pressured into like the films, right? That they were like, you have to do films or sell. And so he's like, all right, I guess I'll do films then. I can't do George Lucas. Maybe Ken can.
Maybe. Maybe, maybe not.
We've got a Barbie joke.
Yeah, it's the other one.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
That's Ryan Gosling. That's why he won't show his face.
Yeah, I'm actually just Ryan Gosling wearing a Ken skin suit. Sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah, that adds up. I think Tom Beach wanted Anakin Solo to turn to the dark side and then turn back to the light, kind of like Kylo. That's interesting. I can see that. I can see that.
Now imagine it all happened while he was in the womb.
Oh man.
Boy.
For half of the comic, he's acting against Leia, and then finally, somehow she manages to convince him to turn away.
That's starting to sound like what are those horror movies where there's like the devil is being born type of thing, where you have like the darkness inside you type of thing.
Deformed Anakin Solo fetus inside Leia, just evil cackling.
He's got the baby's got the Sith eyes like open inside the
baby's all hairy or whatever.
Ugh.
Anakin turned to the dark side after Jaina killed Jason. Ooh.
This reminds me of the whole idea with Denning, where he had Jason go back in time and swap bodies with Anakin, and that was so wild. I'm glad that never got.
Oh, that was like their first idea?
Yeah.
Because I looked at this once because I'd heard about it, and I thought that it was somehow Anakin's spirit would inhabit Jason's body.
Mm.
But I don't know how they would like organically lead it to happen during that series.
That's the cutting room floor.
You can picture Padme leading a rebellion against Vader. Can you guys picture that? You can see it.
Matt Wilkins is Kip Duron. Yes.
I think actually, unironically, that kind of works. You look at some pictures.
Yeah. She's feisty.
If she hadn't died, I could see it happening.
Yeah, for sure. She obviously
she was kind of doing it.
Yeah.
Just didn't have the guns yet.
Didn't have the resources yet.
Besides books and comics, the only show and movie that I ask for is the Underworld show and George Lucas sequel. Yeah, it would be nice to get. It would be cool to get some EU shows, but I'd rather have EU books and comics again if the EU were to continue. I think that's what I'd want first. And if we got some shows, hey, cool. You know, I wouldn't say no.
I demand they release Detours. Actually,
Detours. That's a name I've not heard in a long, long time.
That's the name I haven't heard in a long.
That would have been. They were creating an entire tier of canon just for that, right? And it was going to be like a what if show almost, right? And
I'm pretty sure it was supposed to just be a Robot Chicken style,
just a Robot Chicken thing,
skit thing. I don't know why they created a canon tier for it, because it clearly should just go under Infinities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is where you got the Zendaya as Ken thing from?
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering why you just randomly said that.
Yeah, I was reading the comments.
Okay. Keanu Reeves would make a great EU appearance. Yeah.
Revan.
Keanu Reeves is Revan, yeah.
That's the popular one. I like that fan cast a lot.
Keanu
but
Reeves
if
is
you weren't
Kip
doing
Duron.
Revan, I was just about to say Kip.
Kip, yeah. I can see it.
I can see it too. Cast Andy Serkis as Triclops. I like
That wouldn't be too bad.
I like that.
Who would you guys cast as Cornhorn?
I actually do have one for this. I'm trying to remember his name. He's on Yellowstone. What's that guy's name?
Is it the guy from Yellowstone who's also in
the famous movie actor who's known for many other things than Yellowstone? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I keep wanting to say Kiefer Sutherland, but that's not him.
That's not it. Yeah, that's what I was about to say too. It's let me see. What's his name? Yeah, I know who you're talking about. It's Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner. You'll look at some pictures of Corran, and I really see it. People say he's too tall, stuff like that.
I can see it.
I actually asked Stackpole what he thought. He he didn't want to answer. He was like, I leave that to the movie professionals. But Sean Stewart was like, Tom Cruise, huh?
Jon Stewart was amazing, wasn't he?
Mhm.
What?
Yeah.
Great personality.
He's a great guy.
I hope to see him again one day. He's a
Mhm.
great guy. Now I just thought of another Ken Palpatine one for some reason. Elijah Wood popped into my head.
Elijah
You know,
Wood.
I like that.
Frodo. I can see
That's
that.
pretty
as Ken.
good. Yeah.
He's got the curly hair.
He's got the hair.
Yeah. Could see Pierce Brosnan as Trioculus.
Hmm.
I could see the look. I could see Bryan Cranston as Vishy. Oh, that would be good. I like that a lot. I actually like that. I like Bryan Cranston as Vitiate. Hey, keep smiling. Nice to see you. The Underworld was going to have a love interest for Palpatine, who is a evil smuggler woman, and the script says she turned Palpatine to the dark side, but he probably didn't become a Sith.
So it will contradict Darth Plagueis.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
Yeah. Throw it away now. Yeah.
Don't
No
contradict
flashbacks.
The best
Yeah.
ever.
Not worth it. An evil smuggler woman, a love interest. Well, Palpatine had a lot of love interests. It seems like, Sly Moore, his hands. It sounds like Mara Jade, perhaps. It's just horrible, but it sounds like
Yeah.
it. Matt Wilkins is kept. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never has there been a better fan casting.
Always bet on Matt.
Yeah. We were almost to the end of the comments here, it looks like. Because of her, like some fans say, and she wasn't responsible for him wanting to rule the galaxy. Time he met Plagueis would have been after that woman turned him.
Okay. So
Okay.
so this is like he had a traumatic experience when he was younger
Yeah,
that involved an evil smuggler woman.
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Again, too much to rebel, but if it is for the liberation of the whole galaxy. Yeah, I can see it going two ways. I can see her becoming the evil ruler, and I can see like ruling by his side, and I can also see her rebelling against him. Because I see when Leia's like rebelling and being fierce, I see a lot of like Padme in her, in like those moments where Leia's like standing up against the bad guys. This probably would appear since it was going to be Palpatine backstory, but I don't know how that was going to be done since the show was going to be set between episode 3 and 4. Maybe it was going to be a flashback. Perhaps. I always wonder how they would have done Plagueis. Would they have done a puppet or like a CGI?
It
Or a
probably would
mask.
have been CGI.
Most likely.
With and they'd get a recognizable voice actor, probably. Like a recognizable actor with a lot of
I could see,
gravitas.
That's a casting.
Stellan Skarsgård voicing Plagueis could be interesting.
I like that. I like that.
It's definitely a solid choice.
Why does my mind keep going to Cumberbatch? Cumberbatch could be like that,
He doesn't
like
fit Plagueis in
menacing
my mind.
edge. I don't know.
Mhm. You play a really good Imperial officer for sure.
Oh, for sure. I
Yeah.
just think Stellan because of his. I like Stellan as Plagueis. It works.
Oh, yeah.
I like that too. I like it. Yeah, it's fascinating, and it's always fun to do the fan casts. May have been made if the Plagueis novel was going to be thrown away. Well, if it was, then I'm glad we didn't get Underworld, to be honest. And Chuck Norris would be a great Yoda. That's hilarious.
Yoda
That's
goes
really
to
funny.
Vietnam.
Oh man,
Ken, do you have a
Uh,
Yoda voice?
Oh, I have to. Okay, 1 second.
he's got to warm it up.
In Vietnam, I am. In the spider holes, I've been caught.
Oh man, yeah,
Wow.
that was beautiful. We've got another one. While we're talking about Padme's children, what happened to her family? I don't remember. Does it say anywhere?
Well, Pooja and the other one, they appear in Star Wars Galaxies. There's greater works at play preventing them from meeting Luke and Leia until at least Dark Nest.
Okay.
because they don't know who their mom is until then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Ketamine Yoda.
Yoda.
Do ketamine, I will.
I have get my Honda Civic from the store.
That's funny. So to surmise sort of this stream, if there's been a central topic, I'd say it's been Ken and Jedi Prince, and the namesake that brings you both together via the Ken Force, if you will, which is honestly very beautiful and almost has me on the brink of emotion, because that is truly profound and beautiful. And I wish I could be part of the Ken Force, but alas, my name is several syllables off, with Quinlan Voss or Brennan, if you will. But we talked a bit before the stream. There could be some other Kens out there. There could be some other Ken brothers out there in the EU fandom. The Cooler Ken, you mentioned that there were some Discord, some inactive names.
Yeah, some people that sort of join, they don't really talk, and then you get lots of just people named Ken. It's, among other usernames.
Yeah. Some fallen Kens, if you will, for those inactive users, some fallen brethren.
If you're watching this and your username is Ken Palpatine, reach out to us. We'll do another picture.
Yeah, exactly. Legends Con 2, 5 Kens pointing.
Ken. The movie.
Will the real Ken please stand up?
It's me. I'm the real Ken.
That's very funny. It was an absolute pleasure to meet both of you at Legends Con. Both of you are great guys. It was really fun to hang out, to chat. I really valued getting to meet both of you guys, and you're both awesome people in the fandom. And thank you guys for coming on with me. Is there anything that you guys would like to plug? Perhaps your re-expanded universe project for the Cooler Ken, Praxium Ken. Anything you guys would like to shout out, to share, or any last topic you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, re-expanded wiki. I mean, if Brennan would be so kind as to put the spreadsheet in, I've got a whole list of things that we're working on that not working on. We've curated that adhere to the Legends timeline. So if you finished all your books and you're looking for more to read, I'd encourage you to kind of give that a look through. We've got several series in there. If you like Mando's, there's White Snow, which the author is kind of wished to rewrite it a little bit so that it fits better with Hand of Thrawn's work, which is beautiful, and it reminds me of the way that the story group used to work together to create new things.
Yes, absolutely. I'll put that in a pinned comment or something like that after the stream's over for
thank you.
People to check out. It's really, really cool and a great way to kind of preserve and upkeep the expanding universe in a way.
Indeed.
Past decanonization. Praxium Ken, any final thoughts or any place you'd like to shout out?
Aside from Superlit, I don't think I have anything that I'm working on that I could shout out.
Nice. Okay. And if you'd like to speak to these two gentlemen, they're really great guys, and they're in the Discord, so I'm sure you can find them. Most everyone in these comments is probably in all the Star Wars Discords and stuff, and both of these guys are pretty active over there. So thank you to everyone for watching, and thank you both for coming on for a discussion about all things Ken, Jedi Prince, and the EU.
Of course.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Great to talk to you.
Anytime.
Always great to talk to both of you. Both great guys.
Thank you. I love these streams, and thank you to everyone who was watching as well. It's great to talk about the EU. Hopefully we'll get more of it someday. And Jedi Prince is the pinnacle of the EU. Screw
peak.
Plagueis and New Jedi Order. Jedi Prince is better.
Prince is peak Star Wars.
True.
Yeah. And with that note, we will bid you guys dark farewells, I guess.
Indeed.